Ranking every single Jurgen Klopp signing. That is what I did with the fantastic Paul Machin very recently on The Ripple Effect. That's my podcast. It's on Spotify, but it's everywhere as well. There's a link to the full podcast in the description down below. But what happened wasn't what I expected. So we were going to put forward this idea of doing a bit of a tier list. It turned into Paul not taking over, but he'd put so much work into his list, he'd turned it into a chart. So this is me and Paul Machin going through his list of every single Jurgen Klopp signing. Enjoy.
37.
Yes.
Worst player. Navi Keita.
I totally agree. What a shame. Because
Yes.
it should. This happens a lot. Actually, I think I wouldn't say he's the worst, but I presume you'll bring him up a little bit later on. But for sort of bang for buck,
Yes.
utterly disappointing.
Most money paid for / most disappointing returns, and even the fact that we had a whole year of him at Leipzig where we were kind of watching. We spent more time. The only 2 times I've ever watched Bundesliga in my life are waiting for Navi Keita to join and that month period after the lockdown when Bundesliga came back first. Yeah. Oh my God, I knew so much about Thuram and Havertz at that time. Like, you're
like, I like pressing, but they're all doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, my
He was
knowledge.
Was he one where you were like, there was a lot of no wait. There was like, no wait. No, apparently he's class. It's coming, and it never came. I remember having a chat with someone on Twitter about going, I just don't see what he does. But then someone got me all his stats and he was killing it. Apparently, it just didn't happen.
I saw what he did, and he just had something. There was
such a buzz around him.
Yeah, it really, really was. He was supposed to be like a transformative midfielder for Liverpool. So to go away from, you got lots of functional guys. So we had what was called at the time the Brexit midfield, which was hilarious because it included Gini Wijnaldum. But it was seen as like if you're gonna have like some dry toast and a cup of water on the side for dipping, that's what Liverpool's midfield was. It was distinctly lacking in spice. Yeah, it was going out for a curry and getting a korma. It was delicious at a time, but yeah, not really pushing the boundaries. So Keita came in and he was goals and pace and verve and drive, and he had an ability to move the game forward 15, 20 yards up the pitch by carrying it or with his progressive passing, and again had that eye for goal as well. So we were supposed to be buying 10 goals a season plus similar numbers in assists, and that was unheard of from Liverpool's midfield. And it worked so well that we instead bought a 28-year-old Thiago Alcantara who clearly had nothing left in his legs to go, no, look, mate, this is
keep it.
this is what we wanted from you.
He's one where I've really noticed it in the last year, and there's someone on this list that I did a video on, and when someone signs, it's obviously you read the room a little bit and you go, and this is why this guy is going to be brilliant for your team. But it often, in our space, people get it wildly wrong, and I'm waiting for the one where I can go, this isn't going to work. I might try and say it with my chest, but it's a dangerous thing to do because the easy tap in is go, wow, here he is. He's going to solve all your problems. And yeah, often it kind of just completely goes wrong. And he is that kind of player that there would have been a lot of videos. And the examples I always have is Ralf Rangnick. Everyone's like, here we are. We've got it now because he knows he's got a very clear style of player. So he loves tactics. So this is going to work. And we were everyone. The Athletic Football Daily, absolutely everyone certain off they go, Man United, and this is how they play, and it was trash.
It turns out, that he didn't know how to manage, which was an interesting part of the manager's role. So yeah, Navi Keita, bottom of the pile. So we had a little bit of back and forth on this, and obviously the Athletic had done a list, and my response to who was bottom of their pile was a bit sly on him. So he's nowhere near the bottom. Well, he's very near the bottom, but he's nowhere near bottom. We'll come to this guy in a second, because this is a tricky balance between someone who's just not good enough and someone who either is good enough or should be good enough and it doesn't work out. So 36, Arthur Melo.
Yeah, man.
What was the point of
13
him.
minutes, wasn't it?
What was the point of Arthur Melo? This is a guy, right, who is in the top 10 most expensive midfielders of all time. You know what I mean? Like when he moved from Barcelona to Juventus, 100%.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for certain reasons.
And this is, I mean,
it's a bit shifty, isn't it?
this has changed a little bit actually because of this. Like all defensive midfielders cost £100 million in the last 12 months. Thing, so that might be on the verge of knocking him out. But he was at the time, he was in there. You know,
and he was good.
So I'm told.
he was apparently he's class. He's a good player, and it was so odd. But he got injured, didn't get anywhere near. I remember it's one of those ones where you must have had this all the time, where sort of every 4 months you go, we've still got Arthur Melo, guys. You understand what they do? We still got Arthur Melo.
Yeah, like Andre Gomez started a game for Everton the other week, and I was like, "You what?" Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Arthur Melo. Yeah. No idea what he is or what he was meant to be. He came with that kind of, and it's the level of hype because, and actually a couple of players are about to come up in a very similar scenario where Liverpool just needed to get someone in the door, and when we'd done that previously, we bought a couple of guys who you're like, who the hell is this? So at least they've gone. I've heard of him. Right. I've heard he was at Barcelona. He's Juventus. He's a Brazilian international. There's actually proper YouTube highlight compilations of this guy. That there's numerous. So yeah, huge disappointment. But again, he was a loan signing. But I'm putting him down there because he should have been better, and he wasn't. 35 and 34 are very similar. 35 Ben Davies, 34 Ozan Kabak. So Liverpool.
Yes. So Kabak was the one where we did a video saying, perfect left foot. He's got a left foot.
So
this is the guy.
Raphael Honigstein came on a podcast with me, and I was like, right, Raf, tell me Ozan Kabak, and he was like, this might be one of the great transfer coups Liverpool have pulled here.
So much hype.
Getting him on loan, and then you've got this like transfer fee agreed for him. He could be an absolute star. No. Nope. No, he was not. He was not. He had no pace. He wasn't good enough. He was dropped in mid-season. And
tough, yeah.
And look, we had no fit centre halves, so we got him, and then he got injured, and then couldn't play for us. So complete and utter waste. And same goes for Ben Davies. We called Ben Davies the hologram, because no one knew if he was a real human being. I think I'm right in saying, just before we finally shipped him on, he came on in like a pre-season game, and it was a bit like go and pull the shirt on, go and get out there, go and kick a ball for us to say that you've done it.
He's one where I always think, when I go on Saturday Social, I always think you'll have these sort of magnets for something, and you go, we're not even going to talk about this bloke. Why have you even got this made? But they kind of have to for the reasons. And with you guys, with Redmen, obviously you have that with your squad. I always think that with some of these players, that like, why are we even printing them out?
And yeah, we have this thing where we'll play a cup game, and then we'll go, where's this? Oh my God.
Get the dust off it.
Well, yeah, who's this? And we end up writing names on whiteboards to stick on walls, and that because we have a bunch of randoms to come out of nowhere. But yeah, he's a great example.
So both of those, weren't they, in February 2021? And yeah, the Ben Davies one was odd. Felt really odd. Felt like a stopgap.
There was a tactical move there where they owned no centre halves fit, and so they needed two, but they needed the Kabak one was like there was more moving parts to it at the time.
Schalke, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Mustafi was moving from Arsenal to them, so they needed to facilitate things happen. So I remain convinced they bought Ben Davies just as look, we don't need a centre half. We've bought one. We're fine. We'll be fine. We've got this Ben Davies guy, and then Kabak. Yeah,
made a £2.5 million profit on Ben Davies.
Yeah,
over $3 million to Rangers. Does he go to Rangers if he doesn't have the glow of Liverpool?
Probably
not. Happens a lot.
Ripple effect.
I always say that with there'll be players that will be getting England caps, like Henderson. We were talking about in the last podcast. If Henderson's playing for Liverpool, okay, Phil Neville, Nicky Butt, whoever else.
Yeah.
But as soon as he's playing for Crystal Palace, he can't be playing for England. Yeah. It's just, I don't think that's right, but it's the way it is. And but it worked out for Ben Davies, I think. Overall, probably had a good time.
Next on the list.
Kabak was so bad. Carry on, yes.
A man near and dear to your heart, Mr. Stephen Caulker.
Yeah, that was Stevie Caulker.
Only in so much as he played to be more than Ben Davies.
Yeah.
and he didn't play enough for us to know that he was genuinely awful, like Ozan Kabak. And
Sweet spot.
Yeah. And our overriding memory is that we just kept bringing him on up front.
Yeah.
So like, there's like when you go Stephen Caulker, he actually inspires like some sort of positive
It could
feeling.
be me.
Yeah.
All right. I see what you mean. Yeah, just because it was fun.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
that. So that's why he's above those footballers, which is mental because like Navi Keita is an infinitely better footballer than Stephen Caulker, but there is some form of method to my madness.
My first, I guess, proper football YouTube video was a video for you guys about Stephen Caulker, right? But the amazing thing about it was that I said he's not as good as he thinks he is. And you used that as the title. So my first video, couldn't really screenshot that and put it on Instagram or wherever because it looks basically like I'm saying he's not as good as he thinks he is. I was talking about myself. Turns out I was kind of right on Stephen Caulker. That was odd. And there's obviously he's spoken about this himself, where he's had a gambling addiction. He spoke about the story where he lost 250 grand. And then played against Arsenal the next day, which I think was for us. But obviously, he signed for Liverpool shortly after getting thrashed by Liverpool, playing for Southampton's reserves. So I have no understanding why was he bought?
It was a short-term loan deal, and it was just, I think, to cover. It was a cover kind of situation. Again, it was Klopp's first season. I think he's our first. I think there's a player we call, I think Grujic might have been our actual first buy, but it was just very much Liverpool needed a body, and he looked around and went, Stephen Caulker, there you go, he'll do.
So I'd love to know the truth behind that one. It doesn't totally make sense to me. Carry on.
32, Lloris Karius.
Here we go.
So the Athletic put him bottom.
They did.
And I said to you, that is sly on him. Because the problem I've got is that I did a video with him years ago playing Pro Evo. We were on the same team. We played 2-on-2. It was me and him versus, I think it was Joe Gomez and Divock Origi.
Did Joe score in that?
Actually, that's a good point. What did happen, though, hilariously, was Karius brought himself out. You know the old spam the triangle button? He brought himself out and got lobbed, and we conceded a goal because he made a goalkeeping howler, and it should have been a real red flag, but I let it go. But he was dead sound, and I've always had a bit of a soft spot for him, and I do feel a crushing sadness about how that Champions League final went for him. I think some people just go, he's the idiot, the loser who cost Liverpool a Champions League final, and that just means like hatred or whatever. And I just can't feel that way. I was heartbroken at the time, but I then had to watch him come back to pre-season, and we played Tranmere in a pre-season game, and he was getting like laughed at. And honestly, like, horrible. You can take being hated and you can take being booed and all that kind of stuff, but like rival fans are going, oh, when having a shot, oh, hey, when you say you don't come back from that.
Yeah.
So like I thought he was a decent guy, and it gets forgotten, you know, as much as he cost us the Champions League final in some regards. Obviously, you know, Gareth Bale scored like the greatest Champions League final goal ever in there, and
yeah, I don't think anyone was blamed for that one.
Yada. He was all right that season. You know, he made some.
I was going to say, like, obviously in that one game, he's obviously cost you. Overall, did he do more good than bad?
He was just
was it about sort of net even?
He was just an okay goalie, and the problem is that he made a couple of high-profile mistakes. Every goalkeeper's got it in him, and also he was just a bit too Instagram for people in footy. You know what I mean? I think if you're gonna be a good-looking fella in footy and be a bit about like, I'm gonna post arty photos on me Instagram, you know, be solid at footy. You know, we used to say when like Lucas Leiva signed, he had long blonde hair and white boots, mate. You can't have that unless you are boss at footy. There's a certain entry level.
So he chopped off, didn't he, in the end?
So he did, and he got himself some sensible footwear and then won the Anfield Faithful over, James.
The rest is history. Absolutely. Okay.
Number 31, an awkward fit. I just put him in. He probably should have gone in the exempt category really, but he's been at the club kind of long enough. But he keeps going out on loan. I put Sepp van der Berg in. He's a bit of nothing, to be perfectly honest. He's had a couple of good loan spells out. He had a good loan spell at Schalke. I think he's at Mainz at the moment. Okay. He's just a bit. He would be in our who are indifferent kind of category. I had to kind of fit him in somewhere. He's a nothing. He's a bit of a space filler, if I'm being honest. So we can just move on from
where will he end up? Will he end up being like? Is he Prem?
Total unknown. Complete and utter unknown. Right. He's like 6'4". He did a season at like right wing back, I think, in the Championship, and was doing okay. So he's obviously there's maybe a world where you could see him being an option for us if Liverpool persist with having footballers who can centre halves who can do a bit more than just being a nailed on centre half. But in all honesty, I've got no idea where his level at. He's a total unknown.
Preston, I thought it was Preston.
Yeah, Preston. 30, Marko Grujic. Now, I toyed with him just being another complete unknown of a footballer because he barely got a game for us.
5 mil.
Yeah, first signed in the January by Klopp, and I think it was Željko Buvac who was our assistant at the time. It was seen as like being a bit of like a masterstroke by him to pick him up. What we saw of him, he had very Frank Lampard, like knew when to arrive at the right time at the edge of the box. Good shot on him. He's on this list where he is for the single and sole reason that he scored an absolute banger of a header against Barcelona in a pre-season game. We smashed Barca at Wembley, and he scored. Honestly, if you can find this header, it's great. And he was great. He had a great pre-season that year. Thought he had a very high ceiling.
So with him, he's been at Porto, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's gone on and done all right. He's only 27. What I want to actually do.
He's 27.
Oh, do you think he was going to be younger?
Honestly, he's one of them players who's perpetually 22 in your head, and this season's going to be his season where he goes
sort
up.
of Jesse Lingard, is he?
Yeah. It was Jimmy Traore for Liverpool, who was perpetually 21, and and then it was like, no, he's not. He's
35.
Yeah, his time's come and gone.
What I want. So moving forward, I think this is good. What did you think you were getting, and what did you get? That's what I want. Yeah. What did you think you were getting? Thought you were getting Lampard.
Yes,
but you didn't. What did you get?
So that's a perfect way of addressing the next person on the list.
Amazing.
29, Dominic Solanke.
Who in the last podcast we talked about players who we were saying Jordan Henderson could come back and haunt them and there's a few Liverpool players dotted about actually. You got Milner. Yep. Could Milner do it? Lallana, of course, Dominic Solanke's killing it right now.
We have got a great history in title seasons of players who former Liverpool players actually doing the business against other teams. Fabio Borini in 13-14 was on loan at Sunderland, I think, and had scored a couple of really big goals against teams in and around. Solanke, we thought we were getting...
Got a bargain there as well.
Yeah. We thought we were getting ... the next Robert Lewandowski.
Yeah. 4 mil.
Yeah.
4 mil. Should have stuck with him.
Honestly, no, but like, I'm glad that he's coming good. He's because he's not a 9, but he is. But he likes to do a lot of work outside the box. He likes to link things, and all I've got forever is like speaking to Klopp about like players, and he goes, Lewandowski, he didn't buy him as a 9, and he was playing as a 10, and he could do all this kind of stuff, and then he learned the 9 thing on top, and I'm thinking, Solanke, Liverpool had the front 3.
Solanke.
We had the front 3 though, James, and we're gonna move from 4-3-3 to 4-2-3-1. The front 3 go back a row, and Solanke goes in ahead of them, and I think he scored his one and only goal for us. I want to say it was like last game of the season against Brighton, I think, and or something like that, and we did that, and it was like, this might be the next evolution. We just sold him for a quite substantial chunk of money.
I do think sometimes with those guys, that was a no-brainer of a signing. Like when they come through that Chelsea academy and they're playing for England and all that stuff, I think you kind of did give up on. I mean, I guess you need. This is the other thing that's crucial: is you have to play games.
Yes,
but that does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity.
He's got the raw attributes you talk about as a centre forward. He's got the physique. He's got all the things you kind of need. But also, did he need a season of scoring loads of goals in the Championship to kickstart him?
True.
Danny Ings would have fallen into that sort of category for us as well, to be honest.
If you obviously forget the development and all that, but you get the players that you get, I mean, maybe there's a world where you save yourself 90 million. You got Solanke up there instead.
Instead of
Darwin.
Darwin. Yeah, I'll not lie. I have had that thought once or twice at times this season in the dark of night. When
Less
I'm lying
chaos
awake
with
in bed.
Solanke, better finisher probably.
Quite possibly.
Possibly.
Quite
I don't
possibly.
know. I don't know. That's probably not fair. People get angry about that one.
Yeah, maybe.
Make your way to the comments.
Yes, 100%. Okay, just above him, probably a bit too early to really tell, but I also, I know I've written Kate Gordon out of this already, but I'm putting Ben Doak in. You get a real feeling about a footballer when you watch them. He hasn't quite exploded in the way that I think a lot of people expected this season. 16, 10 and 17 as the season's gone on. He's just got that electric pace and he's just so bullish.
He's quite direct, right?
Yeah, he's got that a bit like, here we go. A bit like...
What do you think you're getting?
Yes. Somewhere of a hybrid between Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney. There you go. Live under that. Live under that shadow, Mr. Doak. Poor boy.
Yeah.
He's, he looks angrier than Michael Owen did, but he has that thing of what Owen had when he was coming through the Liverpool team of, he gets the ball and you're like, you're ready to get up because he's somebody who can make something sort of happen out of nothing. Too early for him really, but I like him. I think he's going to be a good player.
He's young, and he's 18. I guess you got that on that right wing. That's the thing, because Salah's not going to be there forever. That's difficult.
Yeah,
although he couldn't he? Salah might play till he's 50.
Well, he could. He honestly, yeah. Look at him. The thing is, with Doak, he's right-footed. I don't really understand why he's on there. Liverpool typically would have played him, I think, on the other side, but there's so many guys who can do that from the left. I don't really know. But a few players in this sort of similar mould, to be honest, next. I've got Fabio Carvalho, 27. Obviously, just come back from a really poor loan spell at Leipzig. Liverpool should be moving him on again. I really thought we had something with him. Like, I really did. He's got that knack. You watch a footballer, and sometimes the bits and pieces don't work, so they can't quite fit in with the style. But then a situation develops in a match, and you're like, oh yeah. And he had that. He scored against Man City in the League Cup quarter final. I want to say it's last season when we came back from the World Cup. But he had nothing else in the game. He scored a really late winner against Newcastle at Anfield as well. He's got that. When stuff's going down in and around the 18-yard box, he's there, and that's something you actually can't teach. The problem is that his physique says winger, but he's probably got a skill set that's more suited to like false 9, 10, and Liverpool don't need. But he's not big enough to do that for Liverpool, basically.
Yeah, I think he's at the wrong club. I don't think they're going to play the way that he probably wants to play. Like, can he go and be not Maddison, but like play a similar role as Maddison at a team that plays in that way? I do think there's a bit of a Solanke vibe in the fact that I think he will have an amazing career. I just don't think he'll be with you.
I think he was bought as City did Haaland and Alvarez in the summer, and Liverpool did the kind of wish version with Nunez and Carvalho, where you've got you can't buy the same player twice, so get something else, someone else who's got an eye for goal, who can maybe just drop in and do some bits, and it hasn't worked for Carvalho. So
only 21.
Yeah,
he's got time.
I think, and he's got something. Just whether he does it at Liverpool, I'm not sure. Just touching that sort of area there, we've got Ryan Gravenberch, 26. He really exploded into the team, scored a few goals early on, and I think he's like, you bounce in on adrenaline. Remember Rooney did this for Manchester United, he scored on a couple of goals at least on his debut.
He's got a hat-trick.
Yeah, and then you've gotten through that, and it's like, all right, now I need to learn actually how I'm supposed to play in the team, and I think he's having a little bit of that, but like, what a talent. I think Szoboszlai will come to is really drawing the eye. I think he's like, so you can't buy two of the same player. They're not exactly that, but you go 6 foot plus, great at ball carrying, loads of pace, great close control, good vision, and an eye for goal. Like, yeah.
Over the next 3 years, Gravenberch's an interesting player to talk about with this. In terms of that midfield three, and you've had so many changes there, do you see a world where he is the bang-on starter in that midfield three? Because it feels like the 6 question is, Endo's playing well, great, But in time, you might want to go and find whoever that guy is to be the guy that is ultimately often the brain of a team in playing that position. Szoboszlai has been amazing. And then you've got McAllister and Gravenberch. Do you think Gravenberch, in terms of ceiling and what you've seen, do you think he's the guy, or is McAllister the guy? They can't both be it.
Well, it goes back to that thing of the raw attributes thing of, I don't like to beat this drum too much, but I seemingly always do, of being over 6 foot helps in a football sense. I'm sorry, James, but it's look. I played. James is a much better footballer than me, and I am over 6 foot. I'll say that without hesitation. By the way, but if you can put it all together, and you've got those physical things going for you as well, it's just going to give you a little help in those situations.
So what you're essentially saying is he can. Well, what I'm saying is capable of putting it all together. Have you seen it all put together yet?
No, not yet. No. And again, he's a young player, and it's the reason Liverpool went moving heaven and earth to make his transfer happen. It was a nice added bonus at the sort of end of a window, really, where I'd be interested to see if he could do a bit of 6 for us. He's certainly capable of the 8, but right now, I think he's probably he's maybe a slightly better attacker than Curtis Jones in terms of on the ball and what have you. But Curtis Jones is a much better fit for what Liverpool do, and that's going to be a really interesting battle, because we've almost forgotten about McAllister as an 8, because he's been doing so much 6 for Liverpool that it feels more like you've got Jones, Gravenberch, Elliott, and Szoboszlai, 4 for 2, and there's 5 subs, so there doesn't need to be a guy who's the guy anymore. You just play who's fit.
And come back to the previous podcast. That was what we were saying, was that it's about different options to change the game, especially when you've got 5 subs.
Well, on that podcast, I talked about Liverpool's attacking options. I didn't really touch upon the actual attacking midfield options. Links into that as well.
Totally.
25. I had a little issue when I was writing this out. I said I've really struggled to actually write them out and not miss footballers out. So I had a nightmare trying to figure this out. 25, and this might be the one that gets Liverpool fans a little bit raised eyebrows. Adrian. So just to clarify,
Sorry, is that high or low?
I think people will think that's high because people think Adrian's rubbish, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I've, just for clarification, everyone, because please feel free to comment. I've put Adrian above Ryan Gravenberch, Fabio Carvalho, Navi Keita, Marko Grujic. On one, it goes back to my Karius thing. Look, I'm a goalkeeper, so I have a soft spot for the harsh
union coming out.
Yeah, for the harsh realities of the cauldron atmosphere.
The spotlight
of being a goalkeeper. Yes. Liverpool don't win the Premier League without Adrian, because Alisson Becker gets injured first game of the season, and he's parachuted in, and he goes on a run of I think it's 13 games he plays for us, and in that spell he also saves the penalty that wins us the European Super Cup as well against Chelsea.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So he helps us put the foundations in place for the title win, and also wins us a piece of European silverware. So there's that.
Yeah.
He is also absolutely atrocious against Atletico Madrid later on that season, which sees us get knocked out of the Champions League, and he's not great against Chelsea when we get knocked out of the FA Cup that season as well. So
again, yeah.
But I'm happy to look at his. As far as contribution goes, I don't think anyone who's below him in that list had a. I mean, Navi Keita actually, because he was there when we won. He was there at the same time when we won what we won. But I can say very specifically what Adrian contributed solo.
I get what you mean. In a sea of meh, he's actually contributed something.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
24, cult hero, Ragnar Klavan.
Oh, yeah.
He would be very much in a who for everyone outside the Liverpool bubble, by the way. I think he's been on Estonia's equivalent of Strictly Come Dancing, or Dancing with the Stars, which has probably raised his profile a touch.
Klavan, wow.
Yeah.
Where did he come from? Let's find him.
Scored a late winner against Burnley around, I think it was about a Boxing Day game that really enamoured him to Liverpool fans. He's got this, so there's a meme thing of him where
he is Estonian and he looks so Estonian, doesn't he? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but like...
he let he's got this one. There's a little 2-second clip that does the rounds of the ball being played to him, and he lets it run, and he like spins around and then takes it the other way, and it's seen as like Klavan skills. Like, it's like yeah, brilliant moment.
Amazing.
But he's in there just for the cult vibes as much as anything else.
Right,
in reality, he probably should be below Adrian, but I put him above. Right. Yeah, I'd forgotten both of those players existed.
2016 was an odd time for Klopp, wasn't it?
It really was.
It really was. There's a lot of like sort of finding my feet here.
There's a lot to be said for, like, you forget that managers have to like earn their right to be the manager of the football club that they're at, and you know. It's easy to go, look, Klopp was the best possible manager available, and you know, and he came in and he got Liverpool, took another man's side to 2 finals in his first season. But there is another element of Liverpool weren't totally all in on whether Klopp would be a great long-term manager. He was on a short-term contract, and then he had to kind of earn the right to spend money. And until we got into the Champions League, there's a few interesting players.
This is revealing, because actually there are some duds in there, man. I mean, but I guess they can't all be great, and you have to have squad players. But I think overall, and I guess we'll get to some of those names, but there are players that were squad players that did just kind of pop in and contribute a lot more than you generally see.
I don't think. I think from the outside looking in, I think every team's got those players. They're the players who, when you're playing FIFA or Pro Evo and your players on a down, so you've got to swap someone in, you go, who's Eddie Nketiah? You know what I mean? Like, and everyone knows who he is now, but like 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah. Why? Who are these guys? Why are these in the squad? But like, you know, when you know, and you can point to those individual moments. So.
Klavan for vibes.
Yeah, I've now got a clutch of basically recent-ish signings who I think are all good players, but time will kind of... They haven't done anything to make me go, oh, God. And they haven't quite broken out to be in the elite of the elite yet. Okay. And I really struggled with this particular part of the list because there's a bunch of guys who've had their time at Liverpool and didn't break into the all-time great 11, but they played a big part in Liverpool winning silverware.
Yeah.
But their career was a finite thing. I can now measure it. It's got a beginning, middle, and end. Okay. And these guys don't have that yet. So any of these guys could go on and be greats, but they could just be... So when I broke it into categories initially, my categories out of interest...
I love this, man.
I had
how much effort you put into it.
Bottom of the pile / NA, which was the guys I've written off my goalies.
Right.
I had nailed on successes.
NA. That's tough, isn't it? Yeah. This is my life. this is my life. I've got put in an NA. That is heartbreaking stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
Carry on.
Alex Manninger won the league with Arsenal. That's fine.
Yeah. Was Lonergan in NA?
Yeah, Lonergan was in there. Yeah, okay. Bless. I had the zero impact category. All of those names I've now put on the sheet. That was Caulker, Grujic, Solanke, Davies, and Vandenberg.
Lower than zero impact.
Yeah, and I had my favourite category was just a footballer. You know, like, we don't need to have super strong opinions on everything at all times. You can just safely say that someone was just a footballer. And we're getting into that category now, James. So yeah,
amazing.
And so there's my just a footballer and my could be great list.
Could be great, yeah, like that.
But there's a lot of could be greats who could end up as just footballers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll begin with number 23, Wataru Endo.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Give me a few here. Give me who everyone in this bracket.
So Endo, McAllister, Szoboszlai.
Oh,
Szoboszlai. Bajcetic, Gakpo, Nunez.
Yeah.
And that's actually the order in which I've got them from bottom to top. And I know Dom Szoboszlai is like, everyone adores him. As we're doing this, he's had a little bit of a dip in his form. He's kind of he was brilliant at the start, but I think he's plateaued a little bit. I think he's one where, you know, he's still quite a young footballer. I think there's loads more to come from him. I think he'll have a better end to the season.
What's being asked of him is tricky as well, or it's harder than with Endo. 7.5 out of 10 is perfect. Just keep doing that.
Yeah.
Szoboszlai's like, Salah's not won us the game here, so you do it. There's a lot of that.
Absolutely that. McAllister, similar sort of thing with him, where we actually haven't seen the footballer that we bought.
Yeah, he's a funny one because there was such excitement about him, but he's kind of been sort of drowned out by all the other signings, isn't it?
And also the problem is you only get one chance to make a first impression, and I worry a little that by the time he gets to play what he was bought to do, he's got a lot more weight on his shoulders to prove himself, maybe, than somebody who doesn't get to be like this fresh new guy, come and do all your best things. He's had to plow a bit of a lonely, field to get his way into the team.
Because he's more versatile than those other guys.
Yeah, and so I had Baceta kind of just above them because he's this season's been a real non-starter for him. But I can at least point to this time last year, he comes in for the League Cup against City and holds a midfield for 45 minutes against City away and does okay. And then when he comes back in, Liverpool are crap and he's brilliant. And, to the point where he gets to the point where we're playing Real Madrid in the Champions League at Anfield and he's in the team. He picks up an injury, ends his season, and he's only had a couple of minutes since then. And we're being very careful with him. But I have a sneaky feeling that we've got like a real player there.
Have you ever seen him play really poorly?
No.
See, I think that's a good sign.
Yes. And moreover,
Insight.
but moreover, he came in as a 6, so Fabinho looked like he was finished, and we came in and he kind of re-energised it. Yeah. And you're like, wow, look at this lad. We bought him as a centre-half. He's playing as a 6. And then we have more injuries, and he plays an 8, and he's even better. I'm like,
so much energy.
That's not what's meant to happen.
Yeah.
You're meant to be a youth player as an 8, and then you come in, and then you go, but we'll put you in as a 6, and then maybe you end up as a centre-half. You don't come in as a centre-half and end up playing the 8. That's insane. Good player. Okay. And then I've got Gakpo and Nunez above. I really, again, this is how much thought I've had to put into this, James. I had a mental argument between who was 18th and 19th on my list between two attacking players who were both pretty good.
That's we are actually really lucky to do what we do, because I had the same thing about 12th and 13th with it being Wolves or Bournemouth. I couldn't decide. Yeah. In terms of for those guys, the sort of the swing of possible greatness to sort of meh or just a footballer, is, I think, like Endo could creep up a little bit, but he's not really. Darwin Nunez, do you think could it really turn sour for him?
Yeah, look, if Endo
everyone's desperate for him to be the guy.
Yeah, if Endo gets to just a footballer, then that's a real success, actually. No, but
I hope someone's going to clip that.
Yeah, sorry, it's hard.
If Endo gets to being just a footballer, that's a huge success.
Japanese international captain, could well go on and lift the Asia Cup. It could just be just a footballer for Liverpool. But, he was, for a guy who wasn't expected to be playing in a title-challenging Premier League team at the start of last summer, is now all of a sudden on the verge of being a really good first 11 player for us.
Out of those guys, who I think you've got Gakpo too high. Something's not right there for me.
Because he scored goals for us. And, he scored a few goals for us as well, to be honest. And when I look at those group of players, he ends up naturally floating above the others. And that's why Darwin's gone above. My temptation was to put Gakpo above Darwin Nunez. And I had to have a word with myself and go, there's a perception thing around Nunez that's different. Gakpo hasn't been very good this season.
Right.
But then we've not been playing him in the 9. And we've been playing him a bit more in midfield, and I don't think he's really had a good game in midfield for us. And so he's kind of ended up on the periphery. Whereas last season, he came in January and he was brilliant. And I can't unsee the 2 great goals against Man United in the 7-0, where he just scored 2 absolutely brilliant number 9 goals for us. I think he's a quality footballer, but Darwin ultimately has scored more goals and made more goals, and that put him above.
I think in 3 years' time, I'd love to see this list, because I think that's where there needs to be a gear change with Gakpo, where he goes, nah, this is my spot.
My concern is only one of them can go up the list. I think they both have the potential to, but I don't think there's necessarily space in the squad for both of them to rise.
Yes.
There's an old thing
Backbone
from Premier Manager on the PS1. This is one for the kids as well, James, where only in a 4-4-2, only one of your strikers would score goals. It was a mad bug in the game. So you had to, like, if you wanted Robbie Fowler and Michael Owen to score goals, you had to rotate them so they would both score gols. And
that's kind of what Jurgen's doing.
Yeah, and it vibes of Aubameyang and Lacazette. For Arsenal, where you've bought two for that one position, and it's like, well, who's playing? Who starts every week? And Darwin's been starting.
Europa League final or Cup final this season. Who would you expect to start out of those two?
Darwin would start because I think they've decided they're all in on him, and also he keeps setting Salah up. So even if he's not scoring, he's creating, which is a thing. Right, this is my next interesting wrinkle because 17 Takumi Minamino, who would fall into a who category for a lot of people.
Some, yeah.
I'm sure, even a lot of Southampton fans would go like, what? Because I had to start to put metrics in place at this point now.
Wow,
we're starting to get, we're in the top half here, mate. We're comfortably top half. We've got to start to take this stuff seriously.
These guys are decent now. There's no Just a Footballers now.
No. Well, yeah. He is very he was, in fact, on my Just a Footballer list, and there's a few more still to come. We're still in that, because though Just a Footballer, they've got a measurable impact on what they did for Liverpool. And this is now the next clutch is that. I think one or two exceptions to that. So Takumi Minamino
loves a cup tie.
Loves a cup tie.
Loves a cup tie.
What was at the time referred to as the quadruple season, which we're taking back and we're renaming as the domestic cup double season, because that's what we did win, and that's a positive. Not here was our season of heartbreak. We actually won two cups that season. And we don't win them without Minamino. Doesn't have an impact, doesn't even play in the finals. But his goals got us to that. And I think every squad kind of needs that guy who, and that was ultimately our measurable difference between us and everyone else. We got quite fortunate with some really nice cup draws in the early rounds of beatable teams, and then we just put this lad in and he just scored in them. And even right at the end of the season, I think he scored against Southampton as well, in the run-in to keep the league going when we had to really rotate. I liked Taki. It was, he hadn't looked like it worked. He didn't look like he integrated. We bought him during COVID, so we actually didn't get to meet half of his teammates properly.
Integrate. Was he overall kind of, were you expecting a little bit more?
Yeah, I think so. I think, he came from that Salzburg team. We played Salzburg in the Champions League, and Erling Haaland was seen as, everyone keep an eye on Haaland. He was on the bench, and I think he comes on and does okay. But actually, Minamino was one of the ones where you came away from that game going, ooh, him. He was really good. We activated his release clause, seen as really canny business. You always talk about when your season's going well, what can you do in January to give yourself an extra boost? Yeah. That looked like an absolute genius move from Liverpool.
It was in an era where Liverpool could do no wrong with recruitment. So I think absolutely. As well, there probably was maybe a touch more hype. But do you know what? I just looked at his numbers for this season. So he's at Monaco and played 16, started 13, scored 5. And I thought in my head, I just went, good. and I imagine most Liverpool fans, that will be their, because I think what's interesting here is your instant feeling is actually also probably your final feeling with all of these players. And so as much as they sort of come in and you hope they do well, and that plays a factor in the final feeling, he's gone off and you've just gone, well, I hope he does well.
Yeah.
All you want is Minamino to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, no ill feeling whatsoever.
Yeah,
nice lad. Just a footballer.
Yeah.
Just a footballer to play for Liverpool Football
Yeah,
Club.
to his detriment, he's now just a footballer.
Yeah, but again, that's fine. People can just be footballers. You don't need to have statues and, sell a bunch of T-shirts for a particular footballer. Sometimes they can just be fine.
Can I make a request that all these mad sentences that Paul's saying, can everyone just clip them? Someone just clip them all up for highlights. Because you're not actually saying anything weird in the context of what we're speaking about. But when you just hear it on its own, it is bizarre.
Thank you.
Carry on.
I love how you've got an audience that does that.
I hope so. Someone will step up. Come on.
Yeah. So similar to this, but obviously still at the football club. Above him, 16, Kostas Tsimikas.
Oh, yeah, Tsimikas. I thought, in terms of your little pairings, I thought you might get Shaqiri next to him.
He's in there. He's close. He's actually a couple.
Still to come.
I'll do a couple. I'll run through a few. So Costas is in at 16. Scored the winning penalty in the FA Cup final against Chelsea, so he'll forever have that. When we won the Charity Shield against Man City, he held the Charity Shield like a shield and had a photograph. Like held it like like he was in 300. Yeah, I'm here for that. Nice
he has got a bit of banter about it, hasn't he? Doesn't he like the songs as well and stuff like that? Yeah. And he got a good
little
song.
cult figure. He's a weird dancer. He's fine. He's Andy Robertson's understudy, but he's coming like this season in particular prior to the injury. That was a real concern. Robertson's out. I think Liverpool are moving away from needing traditional left backs. I think football's moving away from that a little bit as well. And so you're thinking, God, if Andy Robertson's not even quite what we need, what's this guy going to do? And then he's been really good, really good. So I like him as a footballer, but he's one he'll forever, at best, he'll be a forever mid-tier, nicely remembered. But again, he's not like you're not thinking about in years. So you're not telling your grandkids about Kostas Tsimikas.
He's a bit like I forgot his first name now. Was it Enrique?
Oh yeah, Louis. Jose Enrique. Louis Enrique was much more memorable footballer than better than him, by the way. Much better than him. Next is a tricky one. I've put Ibou Konaté in next at 15. I think some people would have him higher. I think he's potentially brilliant. But I've gone a little, it's weird because he had a great game against Arsenal in the FA Cup, but I feel I've gone a little cold on him because I just think he needs to stay fit and he needs to play a run of games, and I actually think he needs to sharpen up his passing and stuff. So when I've been doing this list, there's a couple of centre-halves who are much further up that, and I think he's got a long way to go. Here's
my question on Konaté. Is he Matip's replacement or is he Van Dijk's heir?
Sadly, I don't think he's either. I think he's Matip's replacement. Ultimately, he's not going to be. I don't think he's going to be. He doesn't do what Virgil van Dijk does.
He can't play those diagonals.
He's just not good enough on the ball yet. That could come in time. I just don't think he's composed of. I think he's in traditional centre back sense. You've got your commanding, and then you've got your covering centre half. You've got your guy who just looks imperious, and you've got your guy who does all the dirty work. He's your physical one. He's used to be Hippier and Honcho. It would be
he's like your Vidic.
Hippier and Carragher. Yeah, Ferdinand and Vidic. Absolutely. He feels more that centre half than the other. I don't see him yet. And look, he's young. He's got loads of time to develop this. This could come in 2 or 3 years, and he'd still be plenty of career ahead of him. I don't see him as the guy, the main guy who you're looking. He's this rock around which everything is built. So he was a tricky one. He was one of the harder ones to place, if I'm honest.
I think you'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Above him, then, and I've paired these together. I've got Xherdan Shaqiri in 14. I think I'm up to 14. Anyway, Xherdan Shaqiri and then Harvey Elliott.
Okay, you got 15.
I know, but I've also made mistakes in it when missing players out. Okay, so I apologise.
Don't get involved, Jim.
We'll keep track of this. Okay. So, Xherdan Shaqiri was ultimately just a footballer for Liverpool. He was a squad, but he was never the 12th man. He was the 13th or 14th or 15th. You could drop him into random games and he'd score goals. He scored against Manchester United, scored an absolute cracker of an overhead against them in pre-season as well, in the big house in Michigan. Fine moment to be on tour.
I remember
Great stuff. He got one of the great assists going for I think it's a Mo Salah goal away at West Ham in the COVID season. Good footballer. Set up Gini Wijnaldum against Barcelona in the Champions League semi-finals at Anfield. Never really fit what we did, but was more than good enough to be in a good Liverpool squad.
Yeah. The stardust and creativity to be a bit too good when you need to break down the lower half teams, and then otherwise Champions League again you might need something, and he could give you that, but overall.
And I've grouped him with Elliott for a couple of reasons, because they're both like sort of diminutive, left-footed, skillful sort of footballers who haven't got the pace or the goals to be like that right of a front three, going to score you 20 like Salah, Mane kind of situation. But it's an interesting sort of conundrum with them, because what Shaqiri was is there's a decision where you can't have 22 world-class footballers, so you need to make some concessions. And what Shaqiri had is what you're talking about there. He had top-level experience, good international footballer, but he didn't quite fit Liverpool stylistically. Yeah. So you can do that.
More physically than anything else.
Yeah. You can do that, or you can get a young player who's got a higher ceiling to do that. And I think Liverpool made that decision with Shaqiri. Went, right, we've had some good times with him. You want to play a bit more, fine. We'll move you on. We've got Harvey Elliott to kind of, and the numbers are kind of similar. And I think it's weird to say, because you're talking about one of Switzerland's best ever footballers, you know, like a man who led a country. Like that's a big ask. Yeah. Harvey Elliott probably won't be that for England.
No.
I think the bars are different, without offending the Swiss.
They won't do anything.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Neutral.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Just leave it.
Yeah. Tell everyone to calm down and be friends. So Elliott won't have those, like, we can't point to that with Elliott, but he, I think he's a terrific footballer, and I put Elliott above him because I think Elliott
that
is
aged
now,
well, I think.
Yeah, and I think he's being picked deliberately in games of football, you know, because of what he can bring to the team, as opposed to like, we need to make a change, let's bring Shaqiri in.
I wildly rate Harvey Elliott. I think he's awesome. Again, it might be a Carvalho thing where he'll get to a point where go, well, come on, I want to be playing and be a bit more integral.
Yeah.
And it might not work with Klopp, but he does work hard as well.
Yeah, he does. And that was a big critique of him playing in the midfield, was, does he offer enough cover going back the other way? And honestly, like, he just runs all day for the team. He's quite gnarly. This is the thing about having lads who support the team, like, who are fans of the football team as well. It gets overlooked. I had said to me previously, like, Scousers have got Trent and Scousers have got Curtis Jones. Non-Scouse Liverpool fans have got Harvey Elliott, of this idea that you don't have to be from the city, but it can be in your blood. You can love the football club, and getting a chance to go and play for them, and really like live vicariously through Harvey Elliott if you're from
that's
London.
So probably stay there and fight for a bit longer as well, actually. I didn't know that he was a fan of the club.
Yeah, big time. Okay. So yeah, I've managed to sort my number out here, so we're back on track.
Great.
12. And so in your listings of like all-time worst, hard feelings, no hard feelings, Thiago is number 12 on my list, and I think there's a real danger that he could be a no hard feelings, thanks for your time, it didn't quite work out, but you know, it was lovely to have you, thanks very much. He's in danger of being just a footballer for Liverpool.
Wow.
No, I know, but he is magic. Yeah. He is I've been really fortunate to see some of the best players to play the game, by their playing for Liverpool or coming to Liverpool. There's a very short list though of guys who I would pay to just watch them play football. Suarez was one of them, Gerrard was one of them, and Thiago was one of them as well. As far as individually talented, I've seen few come close to him.
But you're struggling for impact.
But he's just been injured. So like he misses the League Cup final. He gets injured in the warm up for the League Cup final that we win. Like famous scenes of him sort of like crying on the touchline and that kind of stuff. He has a role to play in the getting through to the FA Cup. He plays a talent role in Liverpool keeping going at the business end of the season.
There has been a really strange conversation around him throughout, because I think he came and he was from Bayern Munich and he was so brilliant for them. But then, as you say, he's always been injured, or there was a period where people thought his legs had totally gone, or maybe it's a system thing.
He's a great example of why you don't buy lads at 27, 28 years old, and from leagues that aren't the Premier League as well, because particularly him, he was at Barcelona, playing Barcelona's team at 17, 18, then moving to Bayern Munich and being involved in that. You've only got so many years really where you can play flat out. He was a bit of a gamble. He was I think that was a Klopp, like, I think he pushed for that because it was just such a unique opportunity. You can get Thiago Alcantara for £30 million.
Yeah.
You just make that happen. A lot of people I've got Navi Keita bottom of the list, James. Like, and yes, we paid less money for Thiago, but actually net, what's the difference between them two lads? I think it might be an argument.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people lump him and Naby as very similar.
Really?
Because of the injury thing.
Right.
I think there are some footballers who you just get really annoyed with when they're not fit.
Yeah.
And I don't with Thiago. Weirdly, I did with Keita, which is stupid, really. But I less so with Thiago, because I always feel with Thiago, like, he only seems to get injured when we overplay him. So, like, he doesn't feel like the kind of lad who just, like, you're gearing up to a game and then, he's picked up a random knock in training and he's out for 3 months. Liverpool would play him for 10 games and you're like, we should probably just take him out here. Yeah. And then you see, it's like in the red zone, but you've got no one else fit. Play Thiago another game. Oh, Thiago's injured. Well, obviously.
Yeah. Maybe that's what, with Keita, that's his thing was the, the intensity, the stamina, and being able to do all of that. Whereas Thiago, it's more about, top 2 inches.
And Thiago also once scored a goal that I still don't know if it touched the ground or not.
Oh, that one, yeah.
I've watched that back 100 times, and I still don't know if that actually made contact with the ground.
Ding. Oh, got to love a half volley. Okay.
So he still has this last end of the season. If he could get fit for Liverpool, he could make it into, not sure all time 11, but he could really.
Yeah, a lot's got to come together. I reckon there's some Liverpool fans who would put him miles down.
I agree with that. So that's they can obviously swivel. I've moved on to
on their list.
Get your own list. 11, and this might be maybe a bit of a controversial pick for some, but I've gone Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. I really wanted to work the numbers out as such that he was number 12, because nothing summed Oxlade-Chamberlain's career up at Liverpool better than him being our 12th player. In a title-winning season. He plays the 12th most minutes. He's like our third or fourth top. I think he's our fourth top goal scorer, highest top goal scorer that season after the front three. And that was, people don't remember it that way, because everyone remembers took a little bit of time to warm up after signing from Arsenal, and then he has that explosive time when he scores big goals against City in the league and in the Champions League, and then he gets the cruciate knee injury, and then he's never quite the same player. And those things are all true, but people forget that in the title season he was fit for all that season for us, and he was just the guy who came in. He played like false 9 against Genk in the Champions League game. He played on the right wing, right of a front three. He played a little bit, obviously played in the 8 when needed to rotate. Really, he's sadly in the just a footballer sort of category, but I think he's a little bit more than that, to be honest, because he did score some really memorable goals as well in that time.
Incredibly likeable footballer.
Yes.
Like energy, like great goals at times. Got about, wasn't a tart. But yeah, it didn't just, again, it was the injuries, wasn't it? You've had a few of those guys, especially in midfield. Is that Besiktas now, isn't he?
Yeah, great, as you say, great fella as well. A couple of times I got to interview him, and just like just made for, he's going to be a top tier pundit when he's ready for that stuff. Honestly, brilliant.
A real what if player. I'd love to. I don't really know how good he was or is.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to judge, and I don't know what that is. My overall feeling on Oxlade-Chamberlain was he was at Arsenal too long, and the wrong Arsenal. If he played for Arsenal 10 years earlier, or even in the last few years, he probably could have flourished. But as it was, honestly, there was just a bit of like mental weakness that had kind of crept into those players. There was a bit of like, because the crowd was so on top and everyone was very aware, do something wrong and you're going to get slaughtered on AFTV and all over social media. So he was that kind of player who would make a mistake, and he like almost like he wanted the crowd to know that, I know. Yeah. Don't worry, I know that's not. I know I'm angry with myself. Like, mate, just go and get the ball back. Don't worry about showing us that it's a problem. And so, like, that's I hate saying mental weakness when I'm a overweight middle-aged football YouTuber. Yeah. But I mean it in terms of like the difference between him and like Mo Salah and Alisson Becker and Virgil van Dijk. They just shrug and crack on. Whereas I always felt like he was doing his own head in a lot. But I like the fact that I think he's good. He's a good footballer. He'll probably be one that in the course of time maybe slides down. Yeah. But I just want to talk about all those football players there.
They haven't done it yet.
Measurable impact for those guys. Big goals for Liverpool in that early spell. So, top 10.
Okay.
10. tricky because it's hard to measure him. He's still a little young to the squad, but Luis Diaz.
Interesting. That's punchy.
Yes.
I like it.
He needs to score more goals.
Yep.
He's struggled. He got a bad injury last year at the wrong time. He was just looking like it was going to click.
He was
for
keeping
him.
it together a little bit
Yeah.
at that stage.
He'd won. Darwin got sent off against Crystal Palace, and he dragged us to a point in that game.
Yep.
We were losing to Arsenal, and again he dragged us into that at the Emirates, and then picked up the injury, and that was kind of him. And obviously this season, get back to fitness. As the thing with his parents being kidnapped back in Colombia and having to like be a footballer in that time. As we're recording this, he's just finding his feet again.
Yeah, you can see it.
Funny how you can have moments in seasons though. The disallowable, the not given goal at Tottenham Hotspur is his. The now the most controversial goal in the history of the Premier League. He scores that, and there's a funny moment where Liverpool's only defeat of the season at time of recording could have been a Luis Diaz game where he wins that, and Liverpool are, Do
you know what I see here? I see a thread.
Okay.
I see a Paul Machin thread.
Yeah.
Where, as you said in the last podcast, you've got a player here who this comes back round at the end, and you're expecting him to fly up that list because he could be the difference maker later down the line.
He is unique in Liverpool's squad and unique to a footballer. We haven't had many of these. Suarez had a bit of this. He'll just beat you.
Yeah.
He'll just get the ball and he'll beat you, and then he'll come back and he'll beat you again, and he'll take two guys on and go through them out of nowhere. He's a ball carrier unique to our squad. So Bosley will do it in a straight line. Gravenberch will do a little bit, a bit smooth glide with the ball. He'll just street fight his way past you. I really like Diaz.
Yeah, it's good. I think that laid really well as well.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed, because he's on the borderline at the moment. I think some Liverpool fans. I think the feeling online is a bit like, I'm starting to see this. Who is he and what does he do? But actually, I think these last couple of games have really he's answered them a bit better.
Also stepping in after Sadio Mane, who I hope makes it on this list. I think that's hard.
Yeah,
I think that gets forgotten about a lot, is when you're trying to fill someone else's shoes, and someone like that. That's really hard. And he's shown that he's capable, which is good.
Absolutely. Number 9, Diogo Jota. Goals. Now, he had a year without scoring, which I said on social media.
A whole year?
Yeah. He went a calendar year without scoring a goal. I think he got quite a few assists in that time, but he had injuries and whatever. But yeah, there was a 12-month period where he didn't score, and I call him he's a killer. He's a predator. When he gets on the ball, he just wants to score, and he wants to hurt you, and it's so. It's a great quality to see that in a footballer. But then I put that out and someone went, yeah, and what about, yeah, but was he a predator in that 12 months where he didn't score? I was like, yes, yeah, he still was. He just had a bad time.
Thanks for that.
We talked about the Mane replacement thing. I don't know if Diaz can get to that level of goals. Jota can, but he needs to stay fit. He's a 20-goal a season forward. He's a really awkward guy. He's one who fails the eye test.
Yeah.
Because he's not lightning quick and he's not silky.
Yeah.
But he'll just scrap and fight and bundle past you. And honestly, like the goal he scores against Tottenham last season, like late in the game, just falls to him. And he's one of the few. I get asked all the time, you've got one chance. The ball drops last minute and you want one of your attacking players on the end of it, and everyone expects you to go, Mo Salah. It's not. It's Diogo Jota.
Really?
100%.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, especially a header as well. Like, his ability to score headers is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. He is like the perfect blend of, I've said it earlier, but like Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler, like, because he's not tall, he's not dead fast, but he's just got that, like, again, and the heading thing,
yeah. And I think he is a lovely ingredient for the squad as well, because that's the thing. Say with Arsenal, the thing I wonder is, in terms of players that you're bringing on or players you've got there, their first thought isn't goals, isn't scoring. Like Nunez and Jota and Salah, like there's a sort of, Mane was like that. There's a kind of selfishness about wanting to kind of. That's the first thought, and that will lead to you scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah.
Is he your Solskjaer? Because he's never really started, has he?
He's got a bit of that. As I said earlier, he was bought as like the fourth for the front three. So he was the guy who just slotted in to rest any of them, play any of them positions on the front three. So he's definitely got a little bit of that. But there's actually a creeping thing now where he scores goals from the left and he scores goals central, and Darwin's not super prolific and Diaz isn't super prolific and Gakpo's not super prolific. It's like, well, he's going to end up actually just playing because, you know, particularly with Salah at AFCON, you want to get Jota on the pitch because there's your guaranteed goals. 8 and 7, I had a little, maybe 8, 7 and 6 actually, had a little bit of a difficult where to place these because we're getting into on the verge of all-time Liverpool 11s players here, I think.
Okay.
These next 3 are just outside that. So 8 is Gini Wijnaldum. Fabulous footballer. Probably underrated a little because of the job that he did. He was one of those footballers who I just don't think it translated well on the telly, a lot of what he did, because...
Slightly out of shot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you don't realise what you're not seeing at the football until you've ever... I remember watching the World Cup, not the previous World Cup prior to Qatar, Russia. That's right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The BBC VR app. And I watched a Brazil game on VR, and what it gave you was like a full pitch view.
Right.
Like the tactical camp that they use on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
But then it gave you the televised coverage on like a virtual screen above you.
Okay.
And that was the first time I'd realised how many times the camera cuts to close-ups on people or the crowd, and how much football you miss. You never see a goal kick ever. You really like you very rarely see throw-ins or quick free kicks from deep. And Gini was just so good at just moving the ball up the pitch and just carrying it or shielding stuff and turning it round. Big goals, scored a couple of the header, the equalising header against Barcelona in the Champions League. The Trent,
he scored 2 in that game.
Yeah. The corner taken quickly. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Divock Origi is seen as the goal, the biggest goal, but nothing will ever top that feeling of like, we've done it, we're level. That roar, that let off, because that header, it was like, there are some moments that are just predestined. The second it leaves a boot, you know it's in because that's, you feel it.
Yeah.
Divock never felt like that. Divock feels to me like, if you watch Back to the Future and the bit where Doc Brown's got to connect the connectors before the lightning strikes the tower, and every time you're like on edge because it's like the music and the tension, it's meant to not happen in time because he hasn't got enough time to do it. I think Divock Origi's going to miss that even now when I watch it, because
every time he finishes that, from my point of view, I hear, every time it gets to him, I hear him go, huh? And there it is, and it looks like a bullet finish, but I'm not totally sure.
Whereas Gini's was, to borrow the word from the previous podcast, was fated. Like the second that left the boot and he got up, it was in before it reached the centre of the 18-yard box. So that alone could do it. But fabulous footballer.
I think there's a debate here with your next person. You could swap Gini with him.
Yes, I totally agree.
Tough call.
7, Fabinho, and I think, and I, you know what, I'll do 6 as well because Joel Matip I think is 6.
Okay.
I think other footballers will come along in the coming months, years, that will probably slide those guys down. They'll be relegated to forever a club legend. I think about like players who do like the legend circuit, and I work with loads of them over the years. Ronnie Whelan's a good example of this, of like won League Cups for Liverpool with goals, was in all the Liverpool teams that won stuff in the late 70s and into the 80s, and it was just a brilliant footballer. But it wasn't Ian Rush, and he wasn't Kenny Dalglish, and he wasn't Alan Hansen.
Again, one for the kids. Championship manager, you'd have 3 players who were sort of highlighted with a little star next to them. Those are players that we're about to talk about.
Exactly. And so Fabinho, I think, was the best defensive midfielder in the world for a maybe a 2-year spell in the midst of this of like 18, 19 and 2021. Liverpool go 97 points and finish second, but win the Champions League and then win the league the next season. He was bought as a Man City killer, and then Man City, I think, then looked at that and went, yeah, we need one of them. And they go and buy Rodri, who has then gone and taken that mantle on and maybe done more.
Yeah.
I think a couple of seasons ago, he scored 8 goals in a season from DM, like crazy numbers.
Yeah, a few screamers in there.
Had a screamer in his locker, which is a very, that's a big thing for a number 6 to be able to do that. So I think the fact that we got to see his powers fade in his final season might.
Was that a surprise? It felt like a real drop because he's not that old, is he?
No, he was 29, and that he should have had
a few more years.
He should be one of those players who could still do it. I mean, Fernandinho, you should be able to do that to your mid-30s. But whatever it was, whether it was lost a yard in the head or in the legs or both, maybe, it was telling that. In the summer, Liverpool got offers for Fabinho and Jordan Henderson, and the offer came for Fabinho, and they went, yeah, no problem. And then Jordan Henderson went, no, we're going to take him on a training camp, and we're going to try and talk him round, and we're going to argue the toss over how much money we want for him. They fought to keep Henderson, whereas Fabinho, it was like, there was a price on his head. That got met, and they went, well, there we go, fine, we can deal without that. But, yeah, I think it will be, sadly, it might be forgotten how good he was in the fullness of time.
Just answer me, why is he above Gini then?
Because Gini Wijnaldum was never the best in the world at any stage. I think he was a great functional part of Liverpool's team. Like, I don't think, maybe because of the captaincy thing, I know Jordan Henderson wasn't bought in, but it's interesting that like Milner, would make it on for a variety of reasons. But I don't think you could ever say, James Milner. That's not what he is. Yeah. We should have done, and he certainly had his moments. Anyway, 6 was Matip. Now, this is where we're getting to these are my all-time 11 players.
Yeah.
5, Andy Robertson. For the Fabinho point, I think he's been injured this season, and it's hard. It's always because of recency bias, but I think he's been the best left back in the world for a number of years. He can do, and I've said Trent's been the best right back for years, but then everyone goes, of course, well, what about the defensive attributes, blah, blah, blah. You can't say that about Andy Robertson.
Absolutely not.
And yet he also gets similar numbers in terms of his assists. He's up there. I think he's level with Leighton Baines as like the most prolific assister from left back. And then Trent. They're the 3 best creative fullbacks the Premier League's ever seen.
Wow. 8 mil, cheap.
Yeah.
Oh, no, 10 mil, sorry.
But we actually got him we got him for nothing because Kevin Stewart went the other way. So the net result was basically we got Robertson for a just a footballer midfielder in Kevin Stewart. I mean, genius.
Did Klopp know? Did anyone know?
There's a story in one of the books about Klopp written by Raphael Honigstein called Bring the Noise, and he talks about like how Klopp recruits footballers and how they used to do it. And I think what this probably does is reveal how much tapping on goes on in football. But you had the director of football would do the business, and they'd go, right, who's available? Who can we get in? Are they interested? And then they'd basically sit them down in front of Klopp, and Klopp would like look them in the eyes and basically judge whether he felt they had the personal attributes to fit with what he was looking for. Well, it's like like someone can go to the horse racing and just know by looking at a horse whether it's got what it takes to run the race.
A football whisperer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Klavan.
Yeah,
look at me. Look at me, Klavan.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go.
But it's true. But but it's like the thing of like that attitude of tell me what you think about training. And if you're the kind of person who goes, I'll do it on the weekend. Not for me. If you're the kind of guy who sees training as the job and then football as the reward for doing the job, then that's what. And Andy Robertson's that. Yeah,
we've been chatting about this a lot this year about Bellingham, and I think I've really noticed it. You have it, don't you? The sort of things you see, and then you go, I can't get away from it. I think certain players, Gerrard, Keane, Bellingham, have that like look and rush. They're sort of a bit aggravated, like all the time. I'm not saying Robertson's totally aggravated, but there's such he's quite clinical and certain and tenacious, but cold. Do you know what I mean? He's got all of that.
He's the perfect Liverpool player because he is aggressive and he won't be bullied, and he'll stand up for other people as well. You know, he's not a big imposing fella, but he won't ever back down in a fight. But then he'll go and laugh in your face.
Yeah, he doesn't react really.
Like there's that famous Jordan Pickford. Jordan Pickford comes over in a derby and really tries to get in with him, like give it the big I am. And Robertson turns and literally laughs in his face, and like that's what you do to idiots like that.
Yeah,
you don't rise to it.
Yeah.
You go like, what are you doing, you fool? Like,
and also like the Barcelona Messi stuff, where he kind of like left one on him, and like other people, you know, you're sort of caught up in the grace of Messi, but like he had a job to do, wasn't he?
So pat on the head.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, great shout.
4. And just for clarity, at this point, I went. This is why I got so confused and kept missing players out, because I knew how to do my bottom and I knew how to do the top. So I tried to meet in the middle.
Clip it.
Careful. And then found that I'd missed players by the time in the middle. This caused me a mess.
Oh, I see.
I did my top 3. I did 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And then this guy came in 4th. So I didn't do me 10 to 1. Sadio Mane.
Yeah. I think this is the 4 we expect. I think what'll be interesting to see if anyone's got a different order.
Yeah.
So Sadio Mane, unbelievable player, always fit, always scoring goals.
Yeah. I was tempted to move Robertson above, tempted for a moment, and only probably just because Robertson's still there is one of the things on that. But Mane, and then I had to just say to myself, Sadio Mane was there the season before Salah. He was Liverpool's player of the season that year. He played on the right-hand side and he was brilliant. He was transformative to what we were doing in an attacking sense. We were a worse team when he wasn't in there. We couldn't replace him. When he wasn't in there toward the back end of that season, we shifted and we had a couple of games with Origi and Sturridge up front. We had to shift formation to kind of give ourselves a little bit of juice to get over the line. He should be like in that list of the greatest players ever to play for Liverpool, but then we signed another guy the season later, and
I think the thing for me with Mane is, I think generally in football it's sort of what are you concerned about, right? And Liverpool, for all their brilliance, in terms of players that you're truly concerned about, it's generally Salah first. And if you have just one person that you're utterly concerned about, that's far more manageable, obviously, than 2. And 2 makes it far more difficult. And if you are missing one of those, then that makes life tricky. Now, for Liverpool, as effective as everyone else was, and defensively how good they were, in terms of the 2 guys that were going to win you the game, really, it was Salah and Mane. And Salah, 85% of the time, will get the job done for you. But he'll get the job done more so because they've got to be concerned with Mane as well. And also that other period of time when he's not at it, you do need someone to get you over the line at times. And Sadio Mane did that regularly.
Yeah, embarrassment of riches, because I think I said it previously, but you need a 20-goal-a-season striker to win the league. And that's been enough for years. But then the Man City era, you actually need 2 really good, prolific goal scorers in your team. Now, they can come from anywhere. They can be centre forward and a 10, or they can be your wingers. Obviously, for Liverpool, it was the wide men. He split the Golden Boot with Salah and Aubameyang one season. That's what he was able to do. He won games for Liverpool single-handedly. Went to the Allianz to play Bayern Munich in the Champions League and just absolutely tore them apart when they'd have been favourites to go through, having drawn at Anfield in the first game.
He's a sort of Scottie Pippen, isn't he, to Salah being the Jordan, which I think unfair maybe.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on, and that's a bit of a problem for him. Is that I feel so sorry because he should be like the man who defined that era, but it was so rare for it to be the case. We had 11 guys who kind of defined that for us, and then 1 or 2 real highlights, and that we'll get on to them, the 3 that'll follow. So 3, Alisson, Becker. I could make a case for any of these final 3 to be number 1, because of the transformative effect they had, and I think at any given time they've been the best players in the world at what they do, and it might be the existence of Lionel Messi actually makes it a potential to put Alisson further forward, which for reasons that I'll explain in a sec. But it's so hard to buy a good goalkeeper, like underratedly so. And when you've got one, you know you've got one, and you do everything in your power to keep one. I have never seen a better goalkeeper in my life than Alisson Becker.
I was just wondering, I mean, just a bit devil's advocate, but is it one where because you'd had such a problem with that position,
Yeah,
that he's maybe
definitely
sort of hold on to him even tighter?
But it helps you recognise the difference in class because I see it with a lot of teams. I see it with like Everton and Pickford, just to keep bringing him up. But he looks brilliant for them because they've had like Joe Robles before that, and they've actually had some really good goalkeepers, Everton. But you go through a little spell, and Arsenal have been having it lately as well. Arsenal are a bit too long without a top quality goalkeeper, so one that looks all right can all of a sudden look better than they actually are. Yeah. We had that with Karius when he brought in. He was a bit better at football than Mignolet, so. Okay, maybe this is the answer. You don't know the answer until you've got the answer sometimes, and right. Alisson was the answer.
And the answer without question. Like that's the thing with there are goal like David De Gea. Can he, there's so many goalkeepers. Nick Pope, is he kicking good enough? Blah blah blah. Like, without question, he's outstanding.
He made a mistake against Leicester about 3 or 4 games into his Liverpool career, and I remember going, because, and this is something that comes when you buy great. It gives you a sense of peace that you can go. For the first time ever, I think a lot of people, because we've had real trouble with goalkeepers going back to, well, Grobbelaar was a bit of a lunatic, but David James, he had the Newcastle fans coined the dodgy keeper thing, and then that got into his head, and then all of a sudden it gets into your own head. So when a goalkeeper starts making mistakes, she's like going, oh, are they good enough?
Yeah.
When you buy the best, it allows you to go, oh, well, if even he's making a mistake, then it's fine to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And we've got that with Klopp as a manager, and we've got that with Alisson as a goalie. It's really freeing to be able to not worry about your goalkeeper. And that's almost like his greatest strength, is that you don't even think about it. Yeah. And moreover, the difference when Kelleher's come in, Kelleher's a good goalie, but Alisson he just saves stuff. Saves stuff that other goalkeepers don't save, and he does it. He makes it look really easy, and it's really hard because, again, for highlights, the greatest save he ever made, pretty much, was against Napoli in a final group game in 2018-19. He makes a save late on, and it's the one that gets us out the group, top of the group, and then spontaneously the cop erupts into like out of nowhere. It's like evolution happening in front of your eyes, like when your Pokemon becomes Charizard. It was wild, but when you watch it back, it doesn't look like what you would say a great save looks like. He wasn't full stretch, it wasn't fingertips, but he's on the toes, he's there, and he's big, and he gets his body behind it, and it's a huge moment in Liverpool's season and future history. And he made it look easy.
And you could just you set and forget with him, and you just did it. You bought him, done. We can sort out the rest of the team now. Right, top 2.
Virgil van Dijk, 2.
Do those two together, because I think we knew it was going to be those.
So, what I said earlier about like Liverpool's 3 best players. The 3 best players, I think the best goalie in the world, the best centre-half in the world. The existence of Lionel Messi for that spell means it's difficult to say. I don't think Salah can ever really say he was the best in the world. I think he can say he was the 3rd best in the world, and I think some phenomenal players have fulfilled that. Suarez at Barcelona, post-Liverpool Barcelona, was the 3rd best player in the world, and there was no shame in that. That's generationally talented. Virgil van Dijk might be the best centre-half ever to play the game. And the problem we've got with the debate around that is that a lot of top clubs have got good centre-halves, like really good. And so you end up feeling like I'm somehow being offensive to your one.
Yeah.
And then you're offending nostalgia, because that means I'm being somehow disrespectful to Paolo Maldini and to Costa Curta and to, Franco Baresi and to Rio Ferdinand and Jaap Stam and, and Nemanja Vidic, which I don't agree with. But I am being offensive to him. Torres had him on toast every time. Anyway, the best in the world have said it about him. Like, Paolo Maldini said these things of Virgil van Dijk. all the things that when I hear people tell me what Rio Ferdinand had, he's got all of them, but he doesn't switch off. And you don't go, Liverpool conceded that goal because his mind just went wandering and it didn't happen. He didn't randomly decide to dribble the ball up the pitch and get caught in possession stupidly and leave the back door open.
Yeah.
And it's not like Ferdinand did that all the time, but I could tell you what his flaws were. Just a flawless footballer, and not only the defensive things, but he'll just pick the ball up and he'll spray it 75 yards into the feet of Mo Salah, who will go and score a goal.
Yeah.
Obscenely good footballer.
Yeah, outrageous, absolutely outrageous. I don't think there's much we can say about Virgil van Dijk right now. And I actually think, again, in terms of this list aging, it's gonna be interesting to see out of those, both those guys, him and Mo, who plays for longer. Like these guys could both have as long as they kind of want with the way that Virgil's kind of returned back. I'm not friends with either of them, by the way. I'm just sort of shortening their names for some reason.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's easy for Salah, isn't it? Like the consistency, so many goals. I guess that final question is, do you think there is any way that Virgil van Dijk can get above Salah, or is he clear?
I think there's something to, if Salah decides to move on, and Virgil's then the captain, which he is, and he's lifting those trophies.
He's
and
37 and he's still doing it.
And you've got those images, because Liverpool have got a lot of that of like the European Cup winners in the mid-80s, where they were just coming towards the tail end of the careers and all that kind of stuff, and you've got that there. Something to that. The problem is ultimately probably no, because this is Virgil's issue. I think he should be in the Ballon d'Or contention every season, but people are just drawn towards the guys who score the goals, the guys who make the goals. I think Virgil van Dijk is as good a defender as Messi is a forward, or Ronaldo is a forward, or Salah or Suarez, and all those great players. But when you do it, it gets forgotten about. He comes so close, like in 2018, I think, 2018-19, he's right at the top of the Ballon d'Or runnings, and then it's like, all right, cool, we'll move on from that. Yeah. What's new and shiny?
But you know, it's stopping versus creating, and creating always kind of wins, because that's kind of why we watch football. Yeah. So congratulations to Mo Salah. I think all three of you have done well. And actually, who's the one I thought wouldn't be as high? I think Fabinho is quite high for me for some reason.
A fullness of time thing might change the Fabinho thing, and Matip as well. It's funny because like Matip this could have been like his final hurrah as a Liverpool player. He's having a great season. He's now done his cruciate. That could be the end of him as a footballer, let alone a Liverpool player. But there's lots of times when he's been just as good as Van Dijk, and I think he is one of them. When everyone talks about the great centre-halves, it's a bit like the Mane thing. Everyone should be saying how great Joel Matip is. Everyone goes, who's the other great centre-halves? And everyone's going Diaz, and there used to be Laporte, and it's Saliba. It's like Joel Matip sat in the corner with one of his awkward wavy arms sticking up. Like, you mean, what about me? What about me?
Yeah. It's tough to be the B-side. Anyway, that was just good fun, mate. Great list, well saved from my shocking tier list that I had here. Thank you for putting so much effort into that list, Paul. I will have to take pictures of that for graphics. Paul, where can people find you?
Everywhere, sadly, for
Such
some.
Name.
At the Paul Machin on social media, MHTV on YouTube, and of course, most famously, I guess, Redmen TV, talking Liverpool all the time.
Mate, thank you for coming down.
Pleasure.
Good to spend a bit of time with you. Love this list. Really, really good. Put your list in the comments. I'm not going to read all of them, but it's good fun, isn't it, to do it?
I will. I'm going to argue with everyone.
If you're new to the podcast, make sure you follow the podcast. Loads of evergreen podcasts on there to go and enjoy, including one with me and Paul earlier in the week, talking about the title race. Thank you so much for listening or watching. See you next time.